Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the Green Arrow, an FPL podcast by Fantasy Football Hub, as we come out of an injury-strewn Game Week 5 and hurtle towards Game Week 6 with more yellow and red flags than Blackpool Beach on a stormy day. My name is Fergi and a big welcome to my co-host Adam Hopcroft. Adam, I really enjoyed the podcast last week with Will where he talked about not using a wild card early. He used really good logic and stats and common sense. And normally I would ask you what colour your arrow was in Game Week 5, but just to set the scene a little, can I instead ask you what you were thinking at about 10 past 6 last Friday evening, about 20 minutes before the Game Week 5 deadline?
I don't know how I'm laughing, but I wasn't on Saturday, put it that way. And I really wish I'd have listened back to the podcast last week. So it come to Friday. I was toying with playing my wild card at points last week, but on Friday I had my move set up. It was just going to be a simple Semedo in for Sufal. That was gonna be the move.
That's way too boring now. It's way too boring.
Very boring. It was done, and it got to. I think it actually got to 5:59 when I logged back in, and I remember because I seen it on my big screen, 5:59, and I thought, do you know what? The Leeds games tonight, there's an opportunity here. And this is, and just to put it into context, I'd had an incredibly busy afternoon at work, and it had been back to back, so my brain was all over the place. So I think I do need to highlight that there was no logic there. I was exhausted. I'm obviously doing a 5 a.m. club. This wasn't at 5 a.m. This is at the worst part of the day. So it's 5:59 in the evening, and I logged back in. I thought, do you know what? There's an now I know Rafina's fit. I'm going to go double Leeds. I'd seen Big Man Backer's post at 14%. What an opportunity. They're going to do Newcastle. Newcastle are so bad. So I thought, I'm going to go double Leeds. And do you know what? And the one thing I did call right is I didn't think Torres was going to play or start against Southampton. I was very convinced with that. So I thought, well, I want Jota. Definitely want Jota, and he couldn't have missed an easier chance if he tried, could he? So I thought I wanted Jota, and I thought how I wanted to structure is so that I could fit big defenders in quite easily. So, and it meant getting rid of Tony, who has been absolute dross. Well, he's not been dross, but he's been nowhere near in the stats in comparison to the other strikers. So I put together a team in 5 minutes without, and I thought, I really like the look of this. This is, do you know what? I'm just outside the top 100k. This is going to push me. This is my thought process at the time. This is going to push me into the top. I could do the top 10k if I nail this. I'm good. Do you know what? He who dares wins. Maybe I've been watching too much Only Horses. Yeah, exactly. I thought I'm going to go for it. Got to be brave. Fortune favours the brave. Oh God, what a wally I was!
What a wally indeed, or what a plonker as Dell will call him.
Yeah, it's a slap. So I ended up. It was 6:15. I think I activated the wild card, and I managed to get there. There were and do you know what? I don't actually regret wild cards in last game week, and I should make that clear. I regret the careless nature that I wildcarded so close to the deadline. There was no research thought. I've deprived myself of that in one game week.
It's one of the best parts of the season, isn't it? Having a wild card and having
exactly.
The whole international break of 2 weeks of plotting and planning. Did it in 5 minutes.
Oh, it was incredible. I think I've definitely been in the Guinness Book of Records for the quickest wild card. It was put together. It just lightning speed, and there was no thought into it. It was careless, and it was just reckless. And to top it all off, I had two 50-50s. I thought I want a Chelsea defender. I'm convinced they'll beat Spurs comfortably, and I think there's attacking returns there for Chelsea. So I thought I want a Chelsea defender. And I narrowed it down to, I didn't look at Alonso in fairness, but I looked at Reece James and Rudiger. I thought we'll go for one of those. And then I had one midfield spot left. And I thought it's either going to be Damari Gray or Sarr. And I've been big on Sarr, irrespective of what. And I nearly bought him in the week previous, which we'll go on to in a second. So the 150-50 that would have, do you know what, got me out of jail on my wild card, let's face it, because I think that's I didn't deserve the luck, I don't think, in this. But I instead of going for Sarr and Rudiger, which would have got me a nice 29 points, I got 2 points from Gray and James. I mean, I got Livramento's bench points, so that was a little comfort. But it was just, I couldn't see. I was certain James would start because I thought he's gonna want his balls into the box for Lukaku. I think Thiago Silva and Christensen are a little bit similar. I'm safe there. It didn't cross my mind for 1 second he would be rotated. And I thought, even going into Sunday, I thought, well, at least I've got a potential of a Reece James 15-pointer to save the day. Yeah, that didn't happen. So
can you imagine if Reece James, because they still had a sub left at the end, I think. Can you imagine if he'd have come on
do you know
the 89th minute? It would have been stringy up time.
Do you know what? I'd have been fine with that. I actually forgot. I think at that point I was starting to get to the point of, laughing about it, and I was expecting him to come on. So that, I suppose, that was a little perk. But I think just going through it, the wild card itself. After I activated it, I knew I'd made a mistake, and I spoke to my wife. She goes, "Why did you make that decision? Why did you make that decision at the end of the day? What are you thinking?" And I was like, well, look, it's done now. I can't go back on it. You're making me feel even worse. So I had to go for a bit of a walk. I went for a walk, and I thought, well, do you know what? At least I can come back and enjoy the Leeds game. So I came back and enjoyed the Leeds game. And 5 or 10 minutes in, when Rafinha scored Bamford assist, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to get away with this. This is brilliant. And obviously, from that point onwards, then Bamford, there should have been a Stonewall penalty on James. Was it as if, how was that not given? That was supposed to,
incredible.
I can't. There were a couple of Stonewallers this weekend, but how was that not given? And from that point onwards, it went downhill. Tony, who I was trying to look for a way to get rid of him because I didn't like that structure with a cheap forward. And do you know what? Looking at having watched St. Maximin, having watched Tony, I'd have been happy keeping him now. And it was just
Armstrong for Southampton's one who's coming through with the fixtures.
And it was just it's back. It couldn't have backfired anymore. And what was Marcel doing holding Tony to give the pen? But to be fair, he looked great in that game. Absolutely great. And that's, if it wasn't for the fixtures, I'd be looking at bringing him back in straight away. So it was an absolute disaster. And I think linked onto this, this was sort of like the big effect, because every week this season, I think 4 out of the 5 weeks, I've changed my mind. And I'm saying last minute, within 2 hours of the deadline. I had, the day before, leading up to it, I've been certain of my move. So week 1, and a video recorded to prove it, I had Ben Rama instead of Tony in my team. That cost me, for the 2 game weeks I had them, it cost me 20 points. So that was just a silly move. I got caught up in the excitement like I did this time on the Friday. The following week, I was all set on doing bringing Dyer in instead of Soufal, which would have got me 7 points instead of 1. And then I changed my mind. I think I was looking at some Twitter teams, thinking, maybe. And I did it about an hour before the deadline. And again, so I changed that. The week before, let's assume I wasn't going to wildcard, the player that I was looking at, and I got talked out of, and I'm not blaming anyone because I made the decision, but I was going Sarr. And I was set on it. And I think Watford, the stats weren't great for Watford, but I didn't like any of the other options, and except for Jota, who I would have gone for. So there's just been, and then obviously the 50-50 on my wildcard, you couldn't write it. There were 4 permutations of what I could have gone for, and I picked the absolute duffest one. If I'd have got one of those 15 points from Rudiger or Sarr, I'd have been a lot more content. I think, do you know what? Okay, I've sort of got away with one there, but I've been punished by the FPL gods. I've got no joy of wildcarding in a few weeks, but the only thing that, and I'm a bit regretful because I'd had a decent start, and I think I could have I could have gone on and potentially had my best ever finish. The only thing that I'm okay with is I've been in this position a few times before, because prior to podcasting, I have made these reckless moves before. Not quite as drastic as this. I think I did actually do a wildcard 2 or 3 seasons ago, but I had the week building up to it, making the decisions, not just this thing. So I think for me, the couple of things that I'm doing is I've temporarily deleted Twitter from my phone. I'm not going near it anywhere near the deadline, and Yeah, I'm gonna. I think I've been in this situation before where I've made bad decisions or I've had bad starts and I've recovered really well, so I know how to do it. But it's more, you hit the nail on the head. It's that I've taken that fun element out of planning a wild card, doing my team, and all of that, and that's the biggest sickener for me. It isn't the fact that I lost. I was 14. Oh, I didn't even say that. I was 14 points worse off than my original team, which I thought looked absolute duff. So yeah, but it just had to be the week where Simicast starts. Tony looks like Messi. It was just everything. Ben Rama gets a nice little deflection, and it is what it is. But it's I thought I'm gonna have fun talking about it tonight.
Fun talking about it, jeez. Alan Ward, you can stop digging now, Adam. Lol. that was an 11-minute tirade there, Adam.
Do you know what? I'd completed my wild card in quicker time than that.
FPL Geordie says, any lessons learned, Adam? I've got one for you, and it's probably quite a practical one you can do. You need to do your transfers earlier in the day and stop leaving them to the last minute. Because it sounds like all four you've made your transfer kind of last minute, whereas if you make your transfer maybe on like the Friday morning, for example, or straight after the press is 2 or 3 o'clock in your lunchtime, something like that, that it seems to, like, I can, everyone listening to this and watching this can definitely relate in terms of making a late decision, sometimes thinking your logic is bang on. I mean, how many times have you, I do it like all the time, right? Is you do something, think, oh, that looks good, but actually on reflection, like an hour later, you're like, oh, actually it's not because of X, Y, and Z. But it seems to be you get caught up in that moment, and then an hour later after the deadline, you're like, oh God, what have I done? And I think you should make them earlier.
I think that's good advice. I think the reason I held off is I wanted to know, I was tempted by Rafinha, and I wanted to know what was happening with, and I think some news broke, didn't it? Probably about an hour before the deadline. Twitter, and that's when the spiral started. That's when the spiral started. And I think the only thing I was fortunate with is that, and this isn't even FPL related, is that I got to go to Villa on Saturday, and the atmosphere, the game itself, and the performance from the team, it sort of, the high of that sort of helped get rid of this, but it was a low feeling because I don't think I felt as low from FPL in a long time, because I'm fine. When luck goes against you, I'm actually quite good at taking that, and I can laugh about it, and I've laughed about we've joked on this pod a lot of times about luck, but when you've made a big cock up, I'll hold my hands up and say that's exactly what I've did, and I knew at the time I'd done it. And I think even if it had paid off, I might have tried to bravado and say, yeah, look, it's paid off. Aren't I brilliant? I probably would have done. Let's be honest. But I knew at the time I'd made a cock up, and I just hoped I would get away with it, and I didn't. So,
well, all I can say is to try and make you feel a bit better. Firstly, I have to give you the violin. Everyone's asking for the violin, and you haven't had it yet.
Where's the orchestra? I need an orchestra.
There was AD Tour on Twitter this afternoon said it should be called the Sympathy Orchestra, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. So well done. So if I had more, Adam, you would definitely had it. But that is the biggest violin sequence that I think we've had since we've been doing the Green Arrow. So many congratulations for that. Anyway, at least at least you've got that. There's a couple of comments in the chat. FPL Geordie, Adam needs a wild card to fix his team. That's a bit harsh there.
No. Do you know what? Do you know what? I wouldn't disagree with that. I'd be tempted to say I'd rather revert back to my old team, but
Srinjoy says the real story is that humble Adam is just letting Fergie catch up in rank. FPL Geordie as well. Where's Wally? He's been found on the Green Arrow pod. And James Harden, Fergie very disappointed. Like no Traore on Adam's wild card. And Stringer as well. Pro tip for podcasters: listen to your own pod after recording. During recording, usually to continuation of the conversation becomes priority. Really good stuff, everyone there. But yeah, I suppose the only thing Adam I would say, which hopefully makes you feel a bit better. You always say, and you do, you always play better without the wild card in your back pocket.
I know, yeah.
And you are a class player who has had lots of top finishes in the past, probably from worse positions than this. So I'm pretty sure now you will make the right decisions and keep climbing. But
I think coming back to it, because there was a couple of questions about lessons learned. You're right with the transfers. I think I will go early on and log off and put my phone out of reach. So lock it in a safe, which I did when we were on the Disney cruise, whatever it is. So I think that is definitely it. But I think the other thing that I think is important is almost just try and stick to a plan and don't let myself get swayed. I think that's I think I've had too many, and this isn't I've had too many outside influences, and I've put myself. I remember last season. I don't know if you remember. I towards the end of last season, I was pleased with how I finished the season, and the reason and I had some great weeks, some not so great weeks, but the reason I was quite pleased with it is I'd knocked a lot of outside influences out. And I was hardly on Twitter, and no dig at Twitter because there's some obviously great stuff and it is useful as well. But I'd sort of taken that out, and I found because I didn't have those outside influences, I was going with what I thought was logical for my team. And because I'm really bad, and I know this now, that looking at what other people have got, I quite fancy a bit of that. And how can I beat them? How can I get ahead of them? And anyway, it's a total royal cock up in this situation.
You're getting a lot of love, Adam, in the chat as well. FPL Geordie. Serious note, Adam, you've been a great source of advice over the last 2 seasons. Chin up, pal. I'm not sure if you're talking about FPL there. Maybe something else. Maybe the 5 a.m. wake up calls or stuff like that. I'm not
5 a.m.
Sure.
That's when I should be making my decisions
absolutely.
and doing it, because I'm terrible towards as we get later on in the day. So.
Okay, do you just want to run through your wildcard team just before we move on?
Oh God,
I thought we'd...
Yeah.
On,
so my wildcard team. So I stuck with Sanchez, and I'm happy with that. I think they'll do well long term. I've got Steele, I think, as backup. I missed out. Obviously, Foster would have been the obvious one to go for. And then I've got Trent, Reece James, who had a stormer. Who else I forgot? I haven't got it up in front of me. So Semedo, yeah, he did well, didn't he? and I've got Livramento and Luke Shaw, and then midfield Salah, Gallagher, Jota, Gray, and Rafinha, and then up front I've got, I think, Scarlett, Ronaldo, and Bamford.
You said Scarlett really quickly. Then you have got Dane Scarlett.
Yeah.
You haven't got Antonio, instantly enough. So I'm sure we come to our teams later. You will touch on that. But 59 points, a very very small red. I think I'm a point ahead of you now. But you scored 59. I feel for you, Adam. It's an uphill climb for you now, especially as lots of the conversation for the coming pods are going to be talking about, wild cards and Chelsea players and Man City players and all this exciting stuff. But I'm sure you'll climb up and give me a run for my money again. Looking briefly at my team, I scored 64 points. I moved Soufal to Semedo, which is the move you were going to do. I played Aylin. I did want to play Aylin. Leeds awful at the back again, and he'll end up getting injured. But Small Green went up from 155k to 133. And at the moment, I've got my eyes set on a Game Week 8 wildcard. So I played 4-5-1. So I saved Antonio. I've kept Antonio for this week, and I obviously had the 4.5 million Richardson up front as well. So I played 4-5-1, but I'm quite happy that I came out with a green, and we'll touch on what wildcards and premiums now, which is the the kind of main talking point of the show. But I've been looking at a Game Week 8 wildcard, and I'm quite excited. I just can't decide on the premiums, which we will talk about now.
Yeah.
So for any new watchers and subscribers, you are very, very welcome. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and set the alerts so you don't miss our live streams at 7 p.m. BST every Tuesday evening. Adam doesn't wildcard every week, so you're not going to have that fun every single week. He doesn't do it every week, but we thought we'd start off with that this week. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content. It would be much, much appreciated. As we are live, please feel free to join the chat at any time. Let us know your thoughts on the topics of the relevant sections, and feel free to ask some questions throughout. James says players like Adam have to walk with their wild cards so the rest of us can run. Oh, James, you absolute flirt. And poor Daffy. In fairness to Adam, Will didn't give him more shield like Fergie. Usually more shield. I'm not sure. More shield. I don't know, but I did really enjoy your chat with Will last week. It was really, really good. Relic Return says Claudio Hopcroft, Tinkerman. Just enjoy last red arrow for Adam this season. So I say you're getting a lot of love in there, Adam. So this week we're going to ask the question about whether we should, could, and will have 3 premiums or threemium, as it's being known in the FPL community at the moment, going into the coming game week. So Lukaku, Ronaldo, and Salah, especially with Trent, it's very, very difficult to fit those players in, into our teams in the coming weeks. With captaincies to take into account, they're incredibly expensive. It means a rough rest of the teams. I'm very, very interested in Adam's thoughts on that, especially since your moves now. And I suppose this is an interesting thought to have for teams that have wildcards already. It's obviously very difficult now to get to the 3 for those who have wildcarded.
Yeah, true.
Because it's going to take a few moves and stuff, as opposed to those on wildcard. This will lead on to some Twitter questions around some common dilemmas lots of FPL managers are facing. We will take a look at captaincy for Game Week 6 and run through our teams and plans for the coming game week before finishing off with our weekly competition and looking at the top of the Green Arrow Mini League. So we now have the fixture ticker at first for the next 6 game weeks sorted by ease. Don't forget, Hub members can sort them any way they want at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. So we can see that Leeds top the ticker for the next 6 game weeks. They have an absolutely spanking run of fixtures. 3 of the next 4 at home, 4 of the next 6 at home, and even those away games includes an away trip to Norwich. Arsenal's fixtures look really, really good after this week. I say that, you could probably include Spurs in that. What a switch around from Arsenal and Spurs. But they have Brighton, Palace, Villa, Leicester and Watford. Chelsea's run after this Man City game is absolutely sensational. 3 home games in 5, including Southampton, Norwich and Burnley, and Brentford and Newcastle away. And Southampton fixtures turn in game week 8. Very, very interested in a couple of their assets, actually. They've looked fairly decent, as do Everton's, who've got Norwich this game week. And they, again, from game week 8, they have 3 at home in the next 4. Right at the bottom of the pile for fixtures in the next 6 weeks, Man City, right at the bottom. So they include Chelsea, Liverpool and Man United all away in that time. And Liverpool actually have got Brentford, Man City, Watford, United, Brighton and West Ham. Very interestingly, because lots of people are doubled up and indeed tripled up on Liverpool assets. Burnley, Villa, United and Spurs top up the rest. So I suppose, firstly, Adam, looking at the fixtures, thinking about your team, thinking about your plan for the next few weeks. Sorry, I can't stop smiling when I say thinking about your team. But what stands out for you here in terms of the kind of teams?
Well, Leeds have got good fixtures, haven't they?
They have got good fixtures.
We're for wild card, I think.
Lucky you've got. Do you
know what? I because I'm off Twitter at the moment, I logged in to send Fergie my team, and then I see the the orange flags on Rafinha and Bamford. I'm like, that's just pretty much KO'd a wild card completely.
I think it sounds like they both might be okay for the weekend.
I think that hopefully, touch wood. I think Leeds fixtures look good, but we just need to watch the injury situation with them, as we've just mentioned there. Arsenal, I think defensively look pretty decent, so I think there's plenty of options there. But I think the obvious team to go in on even now is Chelsea. They're just head and shoulders. I think you can probably have Liverpool on a similar level, but other than that, I think they're head and shoulders above everyone. I really do, including Man City and including United. I think they're that good. And the substitution he made at half-time is, to have Kante come off the bench, that I think they'll take some beating. They will, and I don't think. I know we were saying at the start of the season, it's 4-horse race. There's 4 teams. I think now, having seen everything, I think it's between Chelsea and Liverpool, but I think Chelsea will win it comfortably in the end.
So who are your 3 of choice at the moment? And I suppose importantly, does it include Reece James?
No, it doesn't. I thought I was ahead of the curve, you know.
What's the phrase you used on me?
I could be so far ahead of the curve, so far behind the curve, I'm ahead of the curve.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah.
So maybe in a few weeks' time, when everyone's had their minutes, and then Reece James comes in game week 8, when no one picks him and gets a few hauls, you'd think he'd probably get the enough of the easier fixtures. So I probably will have to stick by him and hope for the best. That's it. The 3 I would go for, I think Lukaku's the obvious one, and it would be 2 defenders. I think I'd go Lukaku, Rudiger, and Alonso. But I think with Alonso, we're just waiting for Chilwell to come back in.
Such a tough one.
And we've had this in many, with different players before. But I think Alonso's actually playing quite well, and I think he's playing better than he has in previous systems. From what I saw anyway, I don't think he looks a liability. We obviously know about his threat, his set piece delivery, but I think the system, I think the wing back system suits Alonso.
Massively.
And I think Tuchel obviously likes him. I mean, the other angle it could be as well is it gives because of his height, he helps on set pieces as well. So I don't know if that is another factor. But the fact that has Chilwell even played a minute this season? I don't think he has.
I think he came on in the Champions League potentially. But yeah, other than that, no. And as you say, it's hard to argue because Chelsea aren't conceding goals either, have they? They've only conceded. No. Is it 1 so far? And that was the penalty, which Reece James did his, But
they were lucky against Villa.
They were,
and you could say Spurs had a few moments. So I don't think they. And when you look at the expected stats, they're not as defensively solid. I mean, they probably should have conceded more than they have.
It's actually really. They're actually halfway down the table in terms of expected goals conceded, which really, really surprised me. They've got an expected goals conceded of over 5 goals, and they've only conceded one. And there's teams like City, Brentford, Liverpool, even Villa, Brighton, Everton, Wolves, and United are all ahead of them in terms of that. I did notice against Villa, Mendy pulled out some incredible saves. Spurs had chances, you say. So I obviously whilst Chelsea are a great defensive team, and I'm sure their XGC will improve, it is worth noting that they have been quite fortunate at the back, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I think whilst expected stats are important, there is something about just having that ability to get over the line. So things like, which don't get taken into account, are like last minute defensive blocks. So we've seen you just see the way that, so I think it was Thiago Silva against Villa pulled out an incredible block, which was a guaranteed goal. So they've just got that about them. And I think how they're set up, I think the only time that they might get shaken is straight, and like Villa did, straight after the international breaks. I think that's what happened with West Brom last season. Yeah, they got caught a little bit cold because they had so many players away. So yeah, those would be the. I think Chelsea would be my priority, and I wouldn't even be worried about bringing them in against City either.
I think the reason I prefer Alonso over James as well is James, and I say this, but James nearly always comes on as well. He nearly always does. Whereas Alonso and Chilwell, they don't tend to. They tend to 90. So I think if you go with Alonso, you get a game or two out of him, and then he kind of loses his place. It's not the end of the world because you're not going to get a series of 1-pointers. Let us know in the chat as well who your 3 would be for Chelsea at the moment, and how long Alonso has left, because it's one of those, like we saw it last year with Justin. We've seen it in previous years with other players where they just keep on rolling, and there's such incredible value with incredible returns. We just think, but they're not nailed, and we miss out on all these points, don't we?
I think there could be a case, and this is how I'd tried to set my team up anyway, where you got a bit of flexibility. So you can start Alonso every week, and if he doesn't play, you might get Damari or somebody like that off the bench.
Yeah.
And I think having that flexibility isn't necessarily a bad thing. And then if it becomes 2 or 3 weeks and it becomes a problem, you ditch him. But I think with Alonso, the upside, I mean, he's probably, I'd go as far to say if he is nailed, even with Trent, I don't think there's a better defender in the game.
He just looks like he's going to score every game, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Every single game. He flashes a shot past the post, or he's climbing in at the back post for a header or a volley. Every game.
So I had to look at the stats, because I didn't watch all the Spurs games. I had to look at the stats at the end of the game and at half time. And then I watched Match of the Day the following day. And I couldn't believe, I was like, I didn't expect this based on stats. I thought he did even more than I expected. And, so yeah, he's, I think he looks great. I think Rudiger does as well, because he's a little bit better for me. I mean, 5.5 million, he offers great value. He looks certain to start almost all the time. I don't think you can say certain, but he's probably the most likely, because I think he gives them that consistency. But he has got a bit of attacking threat. Even in the Champions League, he's got something about him for a centre back. So I think he'll get a couple of attacking returns. So yeah, and obviously Lukaku picks himself, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Robbie H, hi all. First time made a live stream, missed wildcard dissection, not the worst I've seen, to be fair. Welcome, Robbie. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you with us this time. Just a couple of questions we've had on Torres. So Yoyan, I've probably absolutely destroyed that name, says the Torres playing in the Cup tonight has worried me. Yeah, he's starting along with, I think it's Mahrez and Sterling. If I kept him, he doesn't start, and Sarr Halls, I'd be fuming. And also, you go, Adam. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, so on Torres, this was one of the reasons I thought, do you know what, I need to, I was concerned. I didn't think he would start the weekend. And, when we had that conversation about Torres and Traore a couple of weeks back, and I think with Torres, you've got to be prepared to leave him in the team and put up with the pain. Now, the problem is with the fixtures, I don't think he'll start versus Liverpool or Chelsea. And I think he's always he's definitely, he won't start both. And I think they're more likely to go with De Bruyne as a false nine, or they're like to do something along those lines. So I'd be worried as a Torres owner for the next couple.
But that, to me, as I said, I know we taught this to death. City's fixtures from game week 9 all the way through to, I think it's like 21 or 22 are absolutely insane. I think the only hard games like away to United, which will very likely be a 0-0, right? But other than that, they've got an incredible run of fixtures. It could be, where you leave him in and kind of reap the rewards. But if you held him now, well, you've obviously got rid. He's starting this evening, which likely puts doubt he'll start on the weekend. If you held him now, Adam, if you're looking at people like Sarr, Gray, Gallagher and others as well, would you get rid of him this week?
I think it's the right time to sell him, and the reason being, particularly if you've got a wild card in A, absolutely no questions need to be asked on that. I think if you haven't, I probably still would, and the reason being, he's got 3 of his next 6 are Chelsea away, Liverpool away, Man United away, which I'm not convinced Pep will start him in those, and even if he does, I don't think he'll get much out of them. So then you've got the 3 games in between, which are Burnley, Brighton and Crystal Palace. So you're relying on those games, and laws of averages are that he maybe, let's say he plays 2 of them, which is probably realistic for expected minutes. Now, he might do well in the 2 that he plays, but you could have a player for 6 of those game weeks, like Sarr, who will play 90 minutes. And I'd back him to score more over those, over the thing. But that's my thought process. I think if you're on a wild card, if you've got a wild card in your back pocket, then it's an easy decision to sell him and bring him back if you want to bring him back for the Burnley game and Brighton game. Okay.
I think as well. So I've looked at the fixtures for Southampton, who actually they've looked really good. They've had a very difficult start of the season, but they've looked a good team. And obviously, Livramento, if he keeps on starting every game, all the managers' comments all point to him starting, and he looks absolutely incredible value as well as being an incredible player. Very, very attacking fullback. So he looks nailed on and good looking forward. the one I'm interested in, as I mentioned before, is Armstrong. Every time I watch him, and his stats from last year, really good price. And we'll touch on it in a bit now around this whole premiums thing. But Armstrong could be a really nice enabler, third striker, potentially a second striker, but more likely a third. But I've definitely got my eye on him. From game week 9, they've got.
I like Armstrong, but my thought process on this was, and it could change with freemium, but my thought process on this is that for 6 million, I'd rather Cancelo, I'd rather Alonso, I'd rather Reece James. He needs to go away. I'd rather Rudiger, but there were just, I thought with all the defenders in that bracket, I think because of the amount of clean sheets I expect them, and they've all got attacking promise, I think they'll outscore him. So I'd prefer to go that route. But I think as the 6 million strikers, I think he's definitely impressed. I can't argue with you on that.
We got Leeds home game week 9, which is obviously a really nice fixture. Then they're home to Burnley. They got Leeds in 8, Burnley in 9, Watford in 10, and Villa at home in 11 as well. So I really like him, and I do agree with you, but it depends on the structure of the team.
Of course it does.
If you want that third striker spot, I think he's probably the best in that option there.
Do you know what I would say? I would say that if you're looking at game week 9. And I'm going to sound like a right idiot here based on what I've done, but I think after seeing Tony the weekend, and I saw him at Villa Park and I thought he played really well, but he just wasn't getting the chances. But the first half against Wolves, wow, what a performance. And I think he's the one to go for between the 6 to 7 million bracket. And I just wish I'd had the patience to see that. I think the other one who looked fantastic was St. Maximin. What a performance that was. He's just great. He's enjoyable to watch. But I mean, he hasn't, I think he's the sort of player that could do well in any game as well. I mean, he got an assist at Old Trafford. So I think for 6.5, there are some okay options. And the one that's doing well stats wise, and he scored again the weekend, is Timo Pukki. So yeah, there are some options in the 6 to 7 million forward bracket.
Harbinder and Azuri both like the look of the Saints run as well. Just some of the call outs. So Palace have some really nice home fixtures from game week 6 onwards. They're home to Brighton in 6, home to Leicester in 7, home to Newcastle in 9, and home to Wolves in 11. Not sure, seen enough of them at the moment. Obviously, Gallagher looks really good on set pieces. Yeah, he's in your team. You got him nice and early.
He was another one that nearly had an assist the weekend. They got cleared off the line. Of course it did.
No, he looks really good. He's definitely one, like, whenever a wild card or not. I think I'll be looking to get him in anyway. He looks superb, so attacking as well. So I think he looks a great shout. The one I'm interested in, so Liverpool's run turns sour soon. Well, away to Brentford this week. If you look at Brentford's defensive stats, they've got the second best defensive stats in the league behind Man City. They've then got Man City, who have the best defensive stats in the league in game week 7. Then they're away to Watford, away to United, home to Brighton, away to West Ham. That's not an easy run of games there. What are your immediate thoughts on, Salah, Jota, and Trent, and anyone else who may have any other Liverpool players?
I think Salah is looking the best I've seen him in ages, and this is the Salah from, I think obviously 3 or 4 seasons ago. His first season, he was incredible. He is looking so sharp. I love that, even his heading, his movement for the headers is incredible. They're obviously doing a lot of work with the set piece coach. I think Liverpool, because of the players that they've got back, and they've actually got a bit of depth within that squad now. I wouldn't be too worried about those fixtures. The one advantage Liverpool have got, and if I look at I know they've got more away games in the next 6, but Man City at home, the big advantage they've got, Anfield. I haven't been at Villa Park the weekend and listened to the atmosphere. I think Villa, the 3-0 came because of the crowd and the response and the energy from the players, which you don't necessarily see in some of the expected stats, but you could just see the momentum shift as soon as Villa scored. And I think Anfield is an absolute cauldron. It's probably, if I was being neutral, I think it's the best atmosphere in, one of the best in the Premier League, if not the best. And it's no coincidence that Liverpool struggled without fans, but they've been brilliant with fans. So I think at the moment it's a brave man to write off Liverpool, and even with the fixtures, when we talk through Threemium, I'm not sure I'd want to lose Salah. I definitely wouldn't want to lose Trent because of all the work they've done with set pieces as well. So it's just whether Diogo Jota, one of the people I wildcarded for, whether I'd want to lose. But I mean, a lot of that depends. If for example, Firmino comes back and then he's got issues with the Brazil squad, I'd be happily keep it. If I knew Diogo Jota was starting in a front three for Liverpool every week, irrespective of those fixtures, I'd probably keep him over Greenwood and Torres any day of the week. Because he's been, if you look back at the 2 matches, he's been unlucky. Let's be, he could have. I mean, even against Palace, I think he has that chance again. He scores. So if he keeps playing in a front three for Liverpool, I would not be too worried about him. But it's just whether obviously if Firmino is back, that won't necessarily happen.
I'm not sure he's been unlucky. I think his owners have been unlucky because how he didn't score that one on the weekend, it was just, oh my goodness, it's exactly what you've bought him for, isn't it? Is those kind of chances, and it was an absolute killer. Just a couple of other teams to call out. So Leeds, Chelsea, Everton, Palace, and Man United have all got 3 home games in the next 4. As we just mentioned, home match at the moment. Are giving. Home matches. Home teams are getting a slight advantage at the moment. So if you are targeting any of those players, we just mentioned a few of them. 3 of the next 4 at home, and the only other one, it wasn't so much his performance, even though it was quite decent. But King played up front for Watford. I think he's 5.5, and he pushed Dennis wide on the left hand side. And obviously because Watford got a really good result on the weekend. I'm interested to see, if he keeps his spot. I still think I'd obviously fancy Armstrong or someone else above him, but he could be one to keep an eye on if we're really kind of watching
strapped
the
for
pennies.
cash.
Yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think the only other team I would mention, and I think this might be in a couple of weeks, like when you're saying with Southampton, is Villa, because from what I saw the weekend and what I saw against Chelsea, they've got a fit squad now. And Villa's bench the weekend: Buendia, Bailey, El Ghazi, Ashley Young. Who else was it? There was Bertrand Traore.
Oh.
What? I mean, that's how good. Yeah, it's an incredible bench, isn't it? And I think one thing that I think Villa defensively look a lot better. I think, like you said, they're one of the best defensive records. So I think someone like Matt Cash at 5 million could be a great. I mean, he was so attacking on Saturday.
What a goal as well.
Yeah, and then if it was great. He threw it in. He'd done something similar in the first half that didn't quite work, but and then the other player that I think is going to set the league alight this year. We only saw 21 minutes of him, but Leon Bailey. I think what he did in that has got me excited, because if you think Grealish is gone, you've lost that player that gets you off your feet. Some of the things that he can do, he's quicker than Grealish. He's more skillful than Grealish in terms of actually taking on a play. He's incredible at that, just beating a man. He's better. He'll score more goals than Grealish, and his set piece delivery
was set piece as well. I saw,
yeah. But his delivery for the own goal, what a ball that was in, and any touch that's in the net. So all I'm hoping is that he stays fit, because he's so quick. I don't know. When you've got people that are really quick, you always worry about their hamstrings, and I'm just every time. I mean, he's absolutely electric, and he's great. And I think if he stays fit, I think he'll have a really good season. I think was he 6.5 million, maybe 6.5 million. So he could be one to watch in a couple of weeks. So Villa got a couple of fixtures. They've got United away, so that'll be fairly tough, because United they'll get their customary penalty against us, and then
particularly with Mike Dean referee. Yeah.
Mike Dean referee. I bet anything United get a penalty the weekend, particularly after what happened with Ronaldo. And then we've got Spurs away, so it gets a little bit easier. And then we've got quite a nice run after that.
Nice run, yeah. Wolves, Arsenal, West Ham, Southampton, Brighton, Palace. Very good. No, I think he could be He could be one for a game week 8 maybe wildcard shout for those
Yeah,
who like me at the moment
we-
of thinking wildcarding in game week 8. So you just you mentioned Threemium, and this is this is around the 3 premium players who in all likelihood can probably only afford 2 if you want a flexible team. So we have a graphic up now, which I've knocked up, showing it's only got the expected goals conceded for each of the next 5 opponents from game week 7 to game week 11. I've left out game week 6 because game week 7, when we probably really have to start making decisions around this, when Lukaku's games turn. So if we just look at the graphic briefly, for those listening on a podcast, Lukaku plays the best set of fixtures. So four of the next 5 fixtures, Lukaku plays the team with the worst defence so far this season. And after that, Ronaldo and Salah are pretty close, but Ronaldo has slightly better fixtures, offensive fixtures, against the worst defensive teams than Salah's. We mentioned Salah's fixtures earlier. Now, do you know what? I'm really, really stuck, because every time I think of one of these 3 players, each time I look at each one of them, and for different reasons, but I think there's no way I can let them go. And this is tough. So when I look at Salah, as you just mentioned earlier, he looks in the form of his life. The only thing I don't like about Salah is that he tends to hang right, but it doesn't seem to stop him, does it? He tends to hang right sometimes and play quite deep. It doesn't seem to stop him. He still gets his shots off. He still scores his goals. He's still on penalties and all this stuff. But he is looking absolutely sharp. He's looking mega sharp. So he's a shoo-in, right? I then look at Lukaku and the way he's performed over the last few weeks. On the last man, centre of the goal, looks an absolute beast. Should have had something against Spurs. He was unlucky that Werner couldn't finish his dinner. He just looks like every time he gets the ball at his feet at the edge of the box, he just looks like he's going to turn and curl it into the corner. Every time you look at him, absolutely
agreed.
Brilliant. And then Ronaldo, you look at his stats. He's averaging over 6 shots. I'm sure 6 shots on target per game over the 2 games he's played so far. He is the absolute spearhead of that attack. Every single player is looking for him just to get on the end of it and score a goal. He's likely on penalties as well. We're still not sure if Lukaku's on penalties, but I'm not sure Lukaku will even need to be on penalties, the amount of goals he might score in the coming weeks. Well, that's my really initial, observational high-level takes on all 3. But when you try and fit all those 3 into a team, and Trent, well, even without Trent, but just those 3 without Trent, it looks very, very tough. So can I just ask you, Adam, firstly, what is your current thinking on these 3 options over the next, 6 or so game weeks?
I think so. I think if Bamford is fit this weekend and I don't need to do any surgery to my team, one thing I have planned is next week, if I save a transfer, I can bring in Lukaku for Bamford, and I can downgrade Jota to a 4.5 million midfielder. Okay. So I could have all 3, and I quite like it for 2 or 3 game weeks. I think what you said a minute ago is you can't see which one to drop, and I think Lukaku, I think all of them you can make a case for. I think the one I was considering dropping was Ronaldo. And we'll obviously have this weekend to look at it, but absolutely everything is going through him.
Absolutely.
The amount of, and we shot volume we called before, but the good thing with Ronaldo, and it's not good for me because they've got Villa the weekend, but you can be quite confident that he's going to have at least 4, probably 5 shots on goal any match. Exactly. And I actually think him and Bruno have got a really good understanding, but particularly with Bruno playing more centrally. I think he's found him on quite a few occasions. So he obviously got he didn't get the assist the weekend, did he? Because it took him a couple of
which was really unlucky for him actually.
Yeah, but I think they've got a really good understanding, and I think it's pretty much written off Greenwood as an option because of that. So and I think the shorter term fixtures, aren't too bad for, I think, if I just remind myself what they are. So we're just going to have a quick look at them. But I think when I looked at it, so from game week 6 onwards, so you've got to where we're considering potentially ditching Ronaldo. He's got Villa at home, Everton at home, Leicester away, which Leicester haven't been great defensively, have they?
Haven't at all.
And I think I'd fancy Ronaldo to score or do something there. Liverpool at home. Well, that again, if you think about the fans, the atmosphere, how big the game is, he's a big game player. That would, I mean, it's not an ideal fixture, but I wouldn't be too worried owning him for that. And then Tottenham away. Tottenham are hopeless. So, well, it's maybe a bit harsh, but it's not a fixture to fear anymore, I don't think.
It's not, no, definitely not.
So, and then he's got Man City at home again, a Manchester derby. He's such a big game player, and I think because everything goes through him, what's impressed me most is that in all of the games, his movement is just absolutely incredible. Because if you look at the space, so you looked at the chance he had the weekend, he took two opportunities to score. But how much space was he in? There's not.
His movement is
but it was almost identical to the goal that he scored against in the week against Young Boys. It's absolutely brilliant, and the physical shape of him. I think you can forget using an argument that he's 36. I think you've got to think of him probably as a 31, 32-year-old player, because his fitness and physicality is just frightening, isn't it? And I think the level he's at, he isn't a typical 36-year-old. He's more. Not. So I think he's really performances so far. You've got Salah and Lukaku in their peak. He's sort of on the same level that they are. So, which is an incredible achievement given how, in terms of from a fantasy perspective, I'm talking as well. But so I think it's hard to get rid of any of them. And also, so this is the question for me, who do you ditch and when? So game week 7, you've got Chelsea have got Southampton at home. Man United have got Everton at home, and Liverpool have got Man City at home. So some could think, well, I'll ditch Salah before a World Cup, but I think in some of the matches where they had Man City at home prior to COVID with fans, Salah did pretty well. So I'd be a bit apprehensive of ditching either of those in that particular game week. They've all got they've all got fixtures at home. So they've got the home crowd. So I think short term there could be a case for having all three. What it comes down to longer term is, do you think, because it will come down to a combination of maybe 3 or 4 players across your squad. So if you've got Ronaldo at 12.5 million, because I think Lukaku and Salah it didn't make a difference because Salah's the same price as Ronaldo. So I think most people will go for Lukaku because of the fixtures. So effectively what you're trying to say, do you want that extra £12.5 million player? And let's say you've got it for 22.5 million, you can get 3 players. That would mean that you could probably, if alongside Ronaldo, you could probably have Sarr and it'd probably be pretty cheap, Livramento or something like that, which probably doable and not too bad. Or you can really spread the funds and go with maybe Antonio, Jota, Robertson, or equivalent like players. And you've got to hope that, well, I suppose the fact that Livramento's priced quite kindly, and you've got the Arsenal defence as well, maybe someone like Ben White. I could see either option outscoring the other, because if you look at even when you look in the 7-8 million midfielder bracket, they're all rotation risks, so you'd have to probably go for someone a little bit more nailed, like your Sarr or like somebody like that, so or Gallagher. So I think over the course of it, I'm not sure there'll be too much difference. It's hard. Go on.
What about Antonio? And Antonio for me is one, because at the moment Antonio is performing and looks like a 10.5 million striker. And I think the only reason why we're not probably putting him up in this bracket of striker is, one, the team he plays for, but his price as well. He looks absolutely incredible. It'd be hard, because it's going to be hard to have assuming you want Trent and assuming you want Rudiger,
You won't be able to have
and
Antonio.
and this is where it gets difficult then, because dropping Antonio just for maybe someone who may perform a bit better, and someone you're not going to captain, because you're not going to captain Ronaldo likely over Lukaku in these fixtures over these next 5. I think that's where it becomes a bit tough.
You are right, and you're going to have to make sacrifices. I think my point is that by going the expensive route, your Ronaldo, Sarr, Livramento could outscore quite feasibly Antonio, Jota, Robertson, or equivalents, maybe an extra Chelsea defender. So it's, but that's something that could go either way.
Yeah.
And and you've got to rely. Ronaldo is absolutely world class, and I trust him more than I trust Antonio, for example, which I think is fair.
No,
fair
that is fair,
I think the challenge with it is with Antonio. I like him. He's been consistently producing these numbers over a long period of time, but there is always that factor of the how will the Europa League affect West Ham, and it's not just Antonio; it's the other players as well. Because in most situations, and I don't think it will be straight away, but in most situations it catches up with teams, and particularly as so I'm not as convinced that he will keep the level up that he's been doing so far. I still think he'll do well. I still think he's probably the best sub 8 million forward. But it's tough. You've got my point is, I think both options are viable, and I don't know which way I'm going to go at the moment. So I have 2 routes to go. I could bring back Antonio into my team, and I could spread the funds, and then I've then got the tough decision of when do you bring in Lukaku, because do you just forget that Southampton game and think, do you know what, I'll back Ronaldo to score more against Everton?
But even after that, the thing which I'm semi-considering leaving Lukaku to potentially game week 9 is there away to Brentford in game week 8 as well. And Brentford, I think they've only conceded 2 in 5, and they've looked decent. You're likely not gonna captain him in that game. You mentioned Ronaldo against Leicester, so Leicester are conceding twice as many, in terms of XGC as Brentford at the moment. So this is why I'm semi-considering leaving Lukaku to game week 9. I've got a wild card as well. I've been tossing it between 7, 8, and 9. I'm really stuck at the moment. But I think what I'm finding is every week we go through every game week, we learn something else. If Antonio goes, Antonio's got Leeds, right? Would you be massively surprised this weekend if Antonio gets 2 goals and an assist? Because I wouldn't. And then how in God's name are you going to sell him ahead of game week 7 and 8? You just not go into it. So that's a little bit of information there, which I think and gaining, every single week. Just a bit on the age thing, and MW1 in the chat. But what's a typical 36-year-old? And FPL West Live said LeBron is 36 and Federer is 37, which is fair enough. But they are, 2 or 3 of the best sportsmen to have ever played their respective games. But I liked a reply of Conor Mann. He said 36, losing hair, bit of a belly, loses breath after 1 flight of stairs. That's the typical 36-year-old. Let us know in the chat anything else you relate to 36. But go easy, because Adam and I believe, Adam, anyway, you're just over 36. I'm 41 now, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm 37.
You're 37.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I lost a year over lockdown, because it was my 40th birthday over lockdown. I think I've hopped from 39 to 41 without, with a bit of a whimper, to be honest. But anyway, happy birthday to me for 40th last year.
Yeah.
What
to be fair, yeah, I'm not sure Ronaldo will look as good as me when he's 37. Absolutely so not, next year.
I was going to say, Ronaldo and his physique and all this stuff. There's sometimes when I have a shower and I look in the mirror afterwards, I think I look absolutely nothing like Cristiano Ronaldo. But more like Wayne Rooney. And Frank FF stuff in the chat. You're both youngsters. I'm sure we are to you, Frank. And Nihalo says Milner is 35. I know everyone mentions about Milner, don't they, in terms of his his longevity and quality, which is absolutely incredible. But again, he's nothing compared to Ronaldo, is he? Who's that year older, and he still plays 90 minutes at breakneck speed. He's just.
I think if somebody said to you Ronaldo was 26, you'd believe it, wouldn't you? Yeah, if you didn't know any better. That's the incredible thing.
Well, I thought you were 29, Adam, until you just said you were 37.
Wow, so yeah.
I gotta make you feel better after your wild card.
Yeah, that's it. Cheers. What were we talking about? So freemium, weren't we?
Freemium, yeah.
You've raised a good point, actually. I'm just looking at it now. I think you could be onto something with the Brentford thing, because looking at it in game week 8, Liverpool play Watford. So you captain Salah then potentially, or you go with Ronaldo against Leicester. You ignore the Brentford game, and then which I suppose is and then you which is some form of local derby. Is it for Chelsea? Not great on the locations.
Which game week? Sorry,
that's game week 8, and then you do the Ronaldo to Lukaku in game week 9 for the Norwich at home.
Yeah.
That's a really good shot, because there wasn't really there's not an obvious exit, because you don't really want to do Ronaldo to Lukaku in game week 7 when he's got Everton at home.
No,
and who's he got? Southampton. And to be fair, Southampton have been fairly resilient, haven't they? So not sure that's a move. I mean, if you can have both of them at that point, fantastic. But yeah, I'm not sure that's the.
I think as well, just touch on it as well. So, I've had wildcard in my head now for a couple of weeks. Not, I wasn't going to play it last week. I'm not going to play it this week at all. I was thinking about playing in 37 to get Lukaku in for Southampton. Amongst other things, get rid of all the dross and all this stuff. I've considered this week using it in game week 8. I've also seen a YouTube video this afternoon suggesting using it in game week 9, which looks perfectly kind of reasonable. But I've done in the past. I'm sure you've done it in the past as well, where you've actually wildcarded out of a perfectly good team just because you think you can get a better team. And I'm not talking about last week, by the way.
That's what I thought straight away.
I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking in general, right?
Yeah.
How many times, and we've all done it, and the worst is a free hit, because you can actually use that anytime.
Yeah,
I've actually used a free hit and lost out on 40 points. But how many times have we actually got decent teams, well thought out, well spread, good teams, and we just think, I just want a bit more. And this is constantly playing on my mind in terms of my team at the moment. I really like it, and I really like it for the next 4 or 5 game weeks. I'm just missing that one premium. Do I really want to change my whole team? Because you're not going to wildcard and take out 2 players to put in 2 to get the premium. You're going to change a host of players, right? Because that's what the wildcard is fundamentally for. I'm thinking of maybe just leaving it as long as I can. I don't even mind holding rank, or kind of having a couple of minor drops as everyone use their wildcards around me if my team is solid, because then I can use it maybe a bit later. We do have a question which we'll touch on in a sec, just around using it around game week 15. But I'm thinking more though now of using it when my team needs it rather than targeted a run of games, is what I've thought in the last half a day or so.
So if I had my time again and if you gave me back my wild card, what I think I would do is, because I think you're absolutely spot on. Everybody at the moment is fixated on a particular game week.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody,
and it's all down to
exactly
fixtures,
that.
Isn't it? It's all down to fixtures.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone is fixated on a particular game week. What I would look to do is every week make moves that look good for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, and just continue like that. Yeah. And then if I needed to take an 8-point hit or something, or if my team needed a bit of surgery, I would go at that point. So I think staying, we say how important flexibility is, but everyone seems fixated. And I think the reason they are is that they can use their transfers in the next couple of game weeks to go for a couple of punts. But I don't know. I think probably if thinking about it and having time to reflect on things, I would just see it out and just every week, what's my team like? How's it looking for the next 3 or 4 game weeks? and I'd just be flexible to use it at any opportunity, and I think trying to fixate on any particular game week, you miss the opportunities in front of you. There could be a better opportunity further down the line. So, I think when Chelsea, you've mentioned 14-15, I think Chelsea, when they play in the World Club Cup, there are other opportunities to use it. So I think what you've said is perfectly viable. Use it when your team needs it.
I think at the moment, and I must remember to go back tomorrow and listen back to this podcast. That's something that you didn't do last week. But when you talk it through thoroughly and sensibly, which what this forum is hopefully for, is it makes sense, and probably now is the time where we're thinking with our heads on rather than at 6:15 on a Friday afternoon. NW1 says, "You're 41, Fergie." No way. I am. I'm hoping you think. I'm hoping you're saying no way. You think I look younger and not older. Muldoon McSeely says, "I'm 48. Waist is nearly 36. I'm not far off you on the weight. I did lose a bit of weight over the summer, but I've piled it back on recently." Good evening, Ray Kwarashi. And Rohit says, "Fergie doesn't look a day older than 14." Rohit, I think you're going a bit far there. And
14.
Ronaldo would like to boast such a cool bald head, wouldn't he? Just indeed. I even shaved a few this week, guys. I'll have you know I shaved this week. FPL Jody, Adam should listen to his own advice. Absolutely, Adam, you need to listen back to this podcast.
Do you know what? That's that's a really good point. I very, very I re-listened to the pod a few weeks ago, and I actually found it good to listen back to, but you feel, because you're in the moment, and I don't need to do it for editorial purposes, that there's no real need to listen back because I've lived the conversation, but you actually do forget quite a bit of the content that has happened in this chat. So I think that's really good advice. So I will start listening to myself and Fergie.
So you said there's a big pause there between you.
There wasn't a pause. No.
So just in terms, to conclude then on Threemium or the premiums, I think where I am at the moment is, from what you've said, I think at the moment, and obviously it changes week on week, right? We'll probably have this conversation next week, but I think at the moment I'm quite happy probably leaving Lukaku at the moment until game week 9. I think Southampton, in game week 7, I think they look very resolute in defence. They kept Man City out last week. They kept them to barely any shots at all. And obviously away to Brentford in game week 8 is not going to be easy for them either. Whereas, Ronaldo and Salah, who I've already got, I'm happy with. I'm happy with my team. So I think that's where I'm at the moment. I'll probably reassess then in game week 9. That's where I am. Where are you, Adam, at the moment on Threemium?
I'm open to having all three, but again, it will depend on whether I need to take Bamford out this weekend. At the moment, I'm thinking there's an opportunity to bring Lukaku in next week, which will mean going without Antonio this week. But I'll just be banking on Bamford to at least almost match him, or even if there's a 4-point difference, that would cost me a hit the following week to do the same move. So, of bringing Lukaku in. So at the moment, I'm tempted to have all three for game week, maybe game week 7 and 8, and assess it from there. And then it's quite easy to take the money out and do Ronaldo down, and you can do it over 2 game weeks. It's quite fun, actually, I'd imagine, to do when you've got all this money to spend over a couple of game weeks.
That's the benefit of having them all in there, is you can move to anyone.
Yeah, so I'm tempted to do that, and I think, like I said, it could go either way. But what I would say with the 3 players, and you can throw Trent in the mix as well, but I trust them. I think they get the way they're playing. I think they're going to continue scoring points, and in any game week, irrespective of opposition, and I think United haven't had a penalty yet this season, have they? So they'll get 10 this season. So there's going to be a run of penalties at some point. I just think in any game, those 3 players can go off, and it could be a differential to have all 3. Of course, it's the balancing effect, and you can only really do it if I think there are cheap enough players that could, and I say could, match or the slightly more expensive players. So could Livramento match somebody more expensive? Could Sarr? Could Gallagher? Could you mentioned Armstrong? You've mentioned Tony. Could Tony match Antonio maybe? And that's what you're gambling. I mean, they don't even need to match it. It could just be that do your combination of players beat the alternative. I do think, with the exception of Antonio, I think that sort of 7 to 9 million bracket for both midfielders and forwards, it's just a bit of a lottery, and you're gonna have to constantly change them. Whereas Ronaldo, Lukaku, Salah, you know what you're getting, don't you? You know. Right. So I mean, Ronaldo the weekend could have had.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
And he factor in, he probably should have had at least one penalty, irrespective whether you think he died. I think it was at least one he should have had. Right. So, whether he's taken them or not, he'd have got an assist, wouldn't he? So it's, it's. I can see both sides to this, and but I think if you can make it work, it's probably worth a go, and then you can lose. You've got a bit more time to maybe see how it plays out, and you lose the one that's the least effective.
I think it's so tough because it does affect my transfer this week as well. Because if I knew I was right,
same, yeah, exactly same.
Nailed to the mast. I'm wildcards in game week 8. Just as an example, I would make an aggressive transfer this week. Someone like Sarr for 2 weeks, or maybe Damari Gray against Norwich or whatever else. Whereby, if not, it's probably best to save, isn't it? Just catch me in the chat. It's Man City 0, Wickham 1 in the Carabao Cup, which is interesting enough. Oh. Really good points. Wasif says Brentford not going to be easy. I agree, but Southampton at home is going to be a 13-pointer. It could easily be. Wasif, you wouldn't be surprised if Lukaku score a couple of goals, but then you captain him or not. This is the thing. If you've got Antonio and an Armstrong, just an example, or Antonio and someone else, could they match them? I don't know. Of course they
could. I think you've made a good point. Another good point on the captaincy.
2.
Yeah, 2 and 2. I think you do make, if you have all 3, you make the captaincy decision harder.
Absolutely.
Because 2, it's pretty. In most weeks, if you have any 2, it's pretty clear cut who to go for. It's a little bit easier. Having 3, so let's say you had all 3 in game week 7, you'd probably rule out Salah against City, but then do you go Ronaldo at home to Everton or Lukaku at home to Southampton? I think that's pretty similar to the call the other week between them, So, and then I think that if you've got all 3, you've got Chelsea away at Brentford, United away at Leicester, and Liverpool away at Watford. Which one do you go for? Again, they're quite close, and it could go either way. So you are going to make it a little bit more difficult with the captaincy.
And I hate that because I've seen even this week now, I've seen some players who've gone for Bachmann, Foster and Sanchez have to make a decision this week now on who to play, and we have enough to think about every week without thinking about which keeper to play, who am I benching, which order am I benching, who's my transfer going to be, who am I captaining. It's just, it's a nightmare. So I really do try, and I actively do this, in the way that I pick my team. I actively try and pick my team so I have as minimal decisions to make every week, because otherwise it just makes it, it makes it a chore, and it's less enjoyable. Varan asks, can you fit a 3-mium into a 5-3-2? You absolutely could. Yeah. You'd have 4.5, but you probably wouldn't be able to have all the good players you want as well as Trent. And
I think you can do that. I think you can. It's just the area that when I've looked at it, the big sacrifice is sort of the anything between 6 million and 12 million. You're not going to have any. You can have those 3 players. You're not really going to have any. I suppose you could get Trent, but you're not going to really have any other 7, 8 million players. And that's the big sacrifice. And it might mean missing out on an extra big defender. Yeah. But it's it's a tough one to call, and we'll. I think it could be team specific. I think if you've got the opportunity to do it, it could be worth taking the risk, because it'll be difficult for a lot of people to do. And I think people might be reluctant to do it on a wild card.
Yeah, I agree. Just to finish off then on this piece, so we've just got a graphic up. So this is the Hub's predicted points for the same period, game week 7 to game week 11. This currently shows Lukaku as top. So there's me going, I'm going without Lukaku, I won't have Lukaku. Interestingly, Kane and Son come in second and third, then Salah, Bamford, Chilwell, Vardy, Mount and Ings. It probably is worth saying that these predictions are made on a large sample size over a long period of time, and obviously not just the last game week or two. But yes, it's worth just hanging them up there. It's definitely got me rethinking Lukaku already. But like I say, every week things change, don't they? At the moment, we're learning so much every single week, and this season is so different from last, which is so different from the season before as well. That every time you look at a game's worth of results and goals and action, your conclusions either they slightly change or they slightly refine a bit more. So we'll probably have this conversation next week when we're around. Right, are we bringing in Lukaku for game week 7 or not? It's going to be a really tough one. Okay, we've had a few questions off Twitter. Thank you so much to those who sent them in. The first one was off at Van Kiersbill. Thoughts on a game 15 wildcard compared to a game week 7 or game week 8. So we have got a graphic for this actually, and it does. We've got the fixtures up now on YouTube for the fixtures from game week 15-22. So a period of 8 game weeks, and Man United at top. They go on an absolutely sensational run of fixtures from I think it's all the way from like game week 15 to game week 28, something ridiculous like that. They've got an incredible run. West Ham also have a good run. Southampton, Everton, Spurs at the bottom, Wolves, Leeds and Chelsea. So my just immediate thoughts, Adam, before I ask you, is that United run is obviously fantastic. Spurs also go on a superb run from game week 12 onwards. It is just worth saying, in terms of his Spurs improve and Kane captaincy potentially there. But my kind of thoughts there is, I personally think that there's not enough of a fixture swing in game week 15 to actually, nail your wild card to the mast and say, yeah, that's the one I'm going for. I think there is. I think there will either be far better fixture opportunities earlier on, or to what I mentioned earlier, just use it when you need it. So that's kind of.
I'm with you. I think don't fixate on any particular game week. I would personally just focus your transfers, which for like 4-5 game weeks at a time. That'll take you. If you're bringing in a player, maybe not look too short-sighted, and use it when you need it. That's what I would do retrospectively if I still had one.
Nicholas says De Bruyne's back. John says KDB in the mix. It looks like De Bruyne has just equalised for Man City against Wickham. Thanks to those in the chat who pointed that out. Jordan says, wildcarded last week, Jota to Sarr this week. Already have 2 Chelsea. So just on Sarr. So I wasn't looking at Sarr, right? And I'll hold my hands up. I was all over Traore. Traore incredibly unlucky on the weekend again. How Jimenez missed that header, I will never know. I think he hit the bar as well, didn't he? Or something.
The bar, yeah.
But
so he's got just whilst we're on Traore. So he played 2 of the 8. And he's got no attacking returns.
But
he
should have had about
4.
He should have had 6 bloody returns.
Yeah, but prior to the bet, he should have had about 100 attacking returns. So we're not. So he's got to get 4 attacking returns in 6. So it's
how bad is it that I'm still reasonably confident, because he's looking so dangerous. He just looks so dangerous. Anyway, Sarr. So I hadn't looked at Sarr. So Watford didn't score, did they, for 3 game weeks, I don't think, which is why I never really looked at him. His underlying stats weren't that great either. He's obviously a fantastic player, right? I'm not getting away from that. Is it something you're looking at this week with your team, Anna? Because you're in this exact situation.
I think I should have done it last week, and I think that probably what I will do, I've got Gray at home to Norwich, who Sarr just played. So I don't think I could take Gray out at home to Norwich. I think if Rafinha's injured and out, it will be an easy move to make. But if he isn't, then I will do and Gallagher as well. I can't just ditch him after 1 week, and so I think there is an element that they played Norwich as well. You've got to, that is they are the worst defensively. I know he's got Newcastle next and Leeds, so Yeah, if I was looking, let me change the stance. If I was looking for a midfielder this week, in in the 6 to 7 million category, he would be right up there. I don't think there'd be too many ahead of him. So I can't. In fact, he would be my number one target. But I don't know if I'll take out the players I've already got.
I can't believe how much room he had on our right hand side. It was just ridiculous. What Norwich are doing defensively is unbelievable. And FPL Mufasa just asked a simple question. So I think we've answered this. I don't think you're going to be happy with this question, Adam. Alonso or James?
Well, I would say absolutely Reece James, and everyone will go for Alonso short term. But like I said, I'm so far behind the curve. I'll be ahead of the curve. So I'll go for Reece James, and you'll be thanking me. Look, Alonso looks good now, scoring all his goals and assists and having all his shots,
starting all these games, getting all
these games. But then just when you bring him in, Ben Chilwell will appear, probably, and Reece James will be dominating set pieces and getting loads of assists. So I think, look, based on after this game week, I think it's hard to build a compelling case against Alonso because Chilwell clearly isn't fancied at the moment for whatever reason. He's not fancied, so I think Alonso's worth a gamble personally. Particularly if you've still got a wild card left, I can't find a reason not to go. I can't find a reason not to go for him. So you can take if you don't fixate on a week, you can take these little bit of a riskier picks, knowing you've got something to bail you out.
Fair enough. Okay, let's look at the. So we've just got the metric up now. So this is the XG against XGC metric that we've done each game week. Do you know what? I've actually looked at the results of a few of these, and it's pretty good in terms of giving insight into how games may play out in terms of the scores. I don't know if you remember, there was Leeds and Liverpool, and it said Liverpool would score a load of goals against Leeds, and we were saying, I don't know, Leeds' home defence is strong and all this and that, and and there's been kind of numerous other examples as well, but it has been interesting. So what it says this week, interestingly enough, that it does think that West Ham are going to score a hatful of goals against Leeds, which is why Antonio is. It'd be interesting to see actually, Adam, whether you're looking to bring Antonio back in or not. But I'm very, very happy to hold both Antonio and Benrahma this week. It also says that Everton are going to likely score against Norwich, score a few against Norwich, and likely not concede either. And finally, Watford will very likely score a few goals against Newcastle, but they will probably score back. The interesting one for me, which stands out here like a sore thumb, is it does predict, based on the stats, that Man City are going to reasonably comfortably beat Chelsea away. Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, at the moment, that is what the stats are saying, is that Chelsea are not scoring a lot of goals, but they are conceding a lot of chances. Man City have scored a few goals on average, but Man City not conceding barely any chances at all. So it does have here. So I have a bet on it this weekend. I might have a bet on City to win away to Chelsea. I think you get
not a chance.
Fairly decent odds on that. Well, we will see. But this is what it says. So yeah, just some interesting things there. John's asked a question. Yeah, in terms of one-sided games, Man City and Chelsea, it says on here, according to the stats, so far played out this season, XG for teams and XGC for teams, that Man City will beat Chelsea away. Who am I to argue? But it is interesting. It's put me off Lukaku this week for sure, because City are incredibly strong at the back.
Great.
Anything else there, Adam? Anything?
No, I don't think so. No,
just quite interesting things there. It does intimate as well, actually, that United, even though look like they'll score a goal or two, are not, are unlikely to score kind of 3 or more, which is quite interesting when you look at Antonio and Everton things. But we will see.
Well, I think on United, the Axel Tuanzebe can't play the weekend, and he's I think so. It makes me think we probably won't go with a back three, which has been quite good the last few weeks. So yeah, we'll wait and see on that, I think.
Who is the best captain for game week 6? So we asked this earlier on Fantasy Football Hub on our Twitter channel. And Salah came in at 30.8%. Cristiano Ronaldo top, 48.8%. Antonio with just 16%. Bear in mind, he is playing a woefully defensively short Leeds, and Vardy was the fourth choice at just 4%. Everton have the best fixture, followed by Leicester, then Watford, then Man United, according to the Hub fixture ticker. Adam, who will be your captain for game week 6?
Ronaldo. I don't like captaining against Villa, but I don't think the game's on TV because I think they moved it. It's a 12:30 kickoff. I think it's a rare thing where it's a 12:30 kickoff and it's not on TV. So I'm going to probably do the match of the day challenge, and yeah, well, this is quite. I think so. We've agreed to have a family day out, so I'm going to go. I'll go with that, and yeah, I think I'm going to go Ronaldo because the logic for me is United always beat Villa firstly, which is unfortunate, but I just think that one thing that's consistent with Ronaldo is the amount of shots and chances he will have, and it doesn't really slow down, and he's been consistent over a long period of time. And I think if United score, he'll be involved. I wouldn't be surprised to see United get a penalty, and I just fancy Ronaldo to probably outscore Salah this weekend because Brentford have actually looked quite resolute and have defended quite well. They're not giving much away. And I could see maybe a 2-0 to Liverpool, whereas, which it could be Mane, it could be Jota, it could be a few players that could score. And I've seen a few people ditching Jota this week. I don't get that really for this game. Maybe for the City game, but not sure I would do that this week. And then I just can't look past Ronaldo. Unfortunately, for me, it seems quite a straightforward one as well. I think you've also got the United fans there, the Old Trafford factor. I think Ronaldo against Villa, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm there. I actually fancy Antonio more than Salah this week. I think Antonio could do real damage. That Leeds defence is an absolute mess. It is a shambles, and they're all either injured or suspended as well. So I do fancy West Ham to do well, but I agree with you. Looking at with Ronaldo for me is, it's a few things. He is just camped on that penalty spot in 6-yard box. He's very likely on penalties, and his shot volume is just absolutely incredible. So I think Ronaldo over Salah me definitely, but I do think Antonio for me is going to have a very good week as well.
West Ham did well against Leeds in both matches last season, and so I do agree with you, and it is a little bit of a dilemma to whether I bring Antonio back in. But I think it depends on, for me, it depends on the defensive centre part, the central defence partnership, on who it's going to be. So we'll have to wait and see on that, because it could be
there's no one fit, because even Ayling was playing there last week, and Ayling's injured as well now.
Yeah, but Ayling could potentially make the weekend, couldn't he?
I think he was rated as highly doubtful, but even if he does,
is he highly doubtful?
Not a centre back, is he either? But anyway, they're all over the shop.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Yeah.
Josh Brocklehurst says, Fergie, we've decided you are the Attenborough of FPL, a soothing voice when you've had a crap week. I am pleased, I'm just pleased that I can do that. Are you feeling soothed, Adam, after this week?
Yeah, I'm fine now. I'm fine.
Good.
It's
and
uphill struggle, but we'll be all right.
FPL Geordie says, hands up who would like a live stream to watch Adam on Match of the Day challenge. That would be quite good, wouldn't it? Do you know what? I was thinking about this.
God.
I struggle to do the Match of the Day challenge. I was thinking why, but it's because I play Telegraph and Fantrax games. They need action in between matches, if that makes sense, and sometimes based on lineups and what's happened and all this stuff. So I struggle to do that, but I would definitely love to watch you on Match Day.
Do you know what? It's for anyone that hasn't done it, it's actually quite good fun, and it brings back a bit of excitement for Match of the Day. So
I think it would be absolutely gut wrenching in terms of, I think the ordering of the matches would, if you captained Antonio this weekend, right? You captained Antonio,
and it's last on Match of the Day.
But even if it's first, and you're like, oh my god, and then Leeds beat West Ham 3-0, you'd be like, oh my god, it would just be, there'd be so many emotions. It would be absolutely incredible, wouldn't it? I think, but
there is the order does kind of lead you
it
to guessing things, but do you know what? It on the whole, I quite like doing it because it adds a bit of excitement, and it means on the Saturday you can completely switch off and do something and not check your phone, and just you take away a lot of emotions dragged out through the day, and you can just watch it. I tend to watch it on the Sunday morning as well, after I've done 5 a.m. club, just to put it out there. So I'm in the most relaxed, positive state. So yeah,
we may have to do it one weekend before the end of the season. Maybe
I'm not if I'm brave enough to stream, and
there'd be a lot of colourful language going on, wouldn't there?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Maybe what. Okay. Fair play to Mark for doing that anyway.
Adam, we have your team up ahead of game week 6. What's your thinking for this week?
Wow. Yeah, I am. Okay, so my initial plan was to save a transfer, and it depends if I want to go freemium next week. So if I do, saving a transfer is pretty big because it allows me to do Bamford to Lukaku. Yep. So that's what I would like to do. The moves, the other moves, it depends on the fitness of my team as well. So Rafinha and Bamford are currently doubts. The problem is if Rafinha's out, that'll impact Bamford as well. So that's a big blow. If I was bringing in players this week, the two that stand out would be Antonio and Sarr. They would be I wouldn't even have to think about it. So I don't really want to take a hit. If Leeds actually look quite healthy or more healthy than expected going into it, and Bamford and Rafinha are playing, I will probably just gamble on Bamford being able to get as close to Antonio as we possibly can. Even if it ends up being, if it's a 4 or 5 point difference, it gives me that extra transfer to make the following week. I don't think, because it'll end up costing me a hit. So do I think he's going to outscore him by 4? Maybe, but I actually think Bamford's movement is really good at the moment, and I wouldn't write. I think it's one of those that Bamford could easily outscore Antonio. It could go the other way. So yeah, I don't know. The potential moves are Rafinha to Sarr, Bamford to Antonio, potentially both from -4, particularly if there's doubts there, or save my transfer.
Okay, yeah, I'm in a similar-ish boat. Sorry, just on your one, were you going to ask what I would do for you?
Yeah. What would you do based? But what would you do? Let's assume all my players are fit, so there's no injuries. What would you do?
I'd probably wildcard, to be honest. I think.
I know. Yeah. Well, at least if I save a transfer, I could do a mini wildcard next week. The closest I'll get to a wildcard in a while.
I've got to be honest, mate. Antonio would.
Yeah, bring Antonio.
Scare life out of me. But then you're taking away Bamford against them. But then I suppose you should have thought about it last week. But because you were rushing, you didn't. And I suppose this is the whole thing. I'd be tempted to, because you played your wild card now. I think Sarr is probably a short-term pick. So I wouldn't go for Sarr, which he could smash it over these next 2. He could, right? He absolutely could. But you've got to think long term now with a lot of your moves.
Agreed. And if Rafinha's fit, just to be confirmed, if Rafinha's fit, because I thought he looked really good against Newcastle. Sorry. So if Rafinha's fit, he's not going anywhere. So I wouldn't do that move. It's just I suppose it's the Bamford to Antonio.
Or save, I think. Yeah.
I think this is where I could lose a little bit in the Bamford. Antonio could probably outscore Bamford this week, but what I will gain is that extra transfer to do the Lukaku move.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just need to decide on that. So that's what I'm leaning towards, because I did actually in my 10 minutes, I did check I could do that move, and I think I could go up to a 5 million midfielder, but I'd go 4.5 and then save the rest.
Superb. Okay, no, I think that's fair. And your team is fine, right? I know we've given you a good ribbon of your wild card, but in terms of your team itself, you've got a good rank, you've got a good team. It's no, there's nothing to worry about. On my team, so I've got Sanchez in goals. I'll be playing Trent, Shaw, and Semedo. I've then got Rafinha, Greenwood, Jota, Salah, and Ben Rama, and I've got Antonio and Ronaldo up front. I've currently got Livramento on my bench, though. I'm not sure. I'd probably either play Livramento or Semedo. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that's
a tough one. That isn't it?
It's a close game. That one. I think I'd probably go for Livramento. I think, but I'm not sure. I think Southampton have looked good at the back, but then I do think Wolves have been incredibly unlucky going forward. So it's a bit of a tough one. They'll probably end up getting like a 2-pointer each or something anyway. But in terms of transfers, I should save. Absolutely, I should save. I've only got one transfer. I am tempted, exactly the same as you, if Rafinha's injured, move on to Sarr for a couple of weeks. I obviously do have the wild card in the back pocket as well.
Yeah.
I'm not taking out Greenwood at home ahead of Villa. I'm not taking out Jota.
No, I wouldn't do
Brentford
that
either. Definitely not taking Ben Rama out. So, what I'm really trying to do, and this is why I will listen back to this podcast, is if I've got players that are fit and actually have decent fixtures, like Rafinha has, for example, it would have to be Rafinha to take out for Sarr. But it just sounds absolutely crazy because that's the kind of move which could absolutely bite you in the ass, right? Couldn't it? So at the moment, I'm thinking of saving. If Rafinha's out, I'll probably go Rafinha to Sarr. Is my thing, or Gray, though. With Gray, I love the Norwich fixture. But
Man United after
they have, and I'm a bit concerned that if Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are not there either, it's maybe it's a bit iffy. But I think we're generally on the same lines. But really happy with my team. Moving forward to the coming weeks, my only big dilemma I've got now is Lukaku. Obviously, I can easily move Shaw on to Rudiger or whoever else. It's whether to play the wild card and be aggressive, and it's whether to go with the the 3 premiums or not. But I've got another week to really think about that, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that next week.
I think if you can save a transfer, you give yourself because it's the last game week before the international break next week, isn't it? So you can then go into game week 7. So game week 7 is the last one before the international break. Right, so you can then go into game week 7, and you've got a few options to it means you probably don't have the wild card game week 7, so you buy yourself I think your team looks pretty decent. So
I'm happy, and I've got easy hop off spots as well. I can go Greenwood to Gallagher or something like that as well. So I'm really happy with it. Competition time for our YouTube watchers. So firstly, the game week 4, there was no one picked. Marcel scored 13 points in game week 4. We didn't run one last week, obviously, because Will was on last week. But Marcel, no one picked it in game week 4. If you did pick it, I have checked the chat and I can't see it. If you did, please send me a screenshot and let me know. But I couldn't see anyone who did that. For this week's competition, for a chance to win one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mug, which Adam's got a mug there, haven't you? Adam, can you show everyone? Look at that! What a mug! And the cup that he's holding as well. You need to actually win. To actually win one, you need to like the stream or the video, make sure you are subscribed, and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in game week 6. Adam, who do you think is going to be the top point scorer in game week 6?
After everything you've said about the Leeds defence, I'm going to go with Bowen.
Oof, I'm also going for a West Ham attacker as well.
Going to go Fornals?
I'm going to go Fornals, yeah.
I did think Fornals,
That is mad. I've got them written down in front of me. I've got Adam, who is yours, and then mine, Fornals. That is...
I nearly said Fornals, so that would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting. Of all the players in all the league, we'd have gone for Fornals. But please make sure, everyone, that you like, subscribe, and then put in the chat who you think is going to be the highest point scorer for the week. Let's take a look at the standings after game week 5 in our at FFH_ Green Arrow mini league. In 10th place, we've got AF. In 9th place, Jawad Khan. In 7th place, Yusuf Bujanade. 7th, Mark Berry. 6th, John Pozomiski. 5th, Kieran Davis. 4th, Pops Get Back. 3rd, Andy Goodwin. 2nd, Michael Robstead. And 1st, new leader, Henrik Rinskar, who scored 76 points last week, is currently on 425 points and 166th in the world. Very, very well played indeed. Ali McGregor's going for Traore top point scorer. My man, absolutely, Ali. And I hope he does. Even though I don't own him, I hope he does, so I can get a pint or two off Adam at Christmas time. Make sure you join our Green Arrow podcast mini league. There will be a Fantasy Football Hub goodie bag prize and free premium membership for first play. The mini league code is QDASZ2. YouTube watchers can join using the auto join link in the description below, and I'm just popping it now in the live chat for anyone there, so make sure you follow us there. Adam, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for everyone joining in the chat. We really appreciate you all watching us, all your interaction, all your ideas. We really do have good fun with this every single week. Thanks for listening to us, and thanks for giving Adam a hard time over he's even turned his light off. Like he's ready to go, Adam. He's turned his light off. He's had enough of all this.
I don't know what I've done, but I've changed the screen, haven't I? I've gone all blue, haven't I?
I've gone all blue. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. Great insight, chat as always, and a great sport with the wild card. Where can people get hold of you?
Not on Twitter for the next couple of weeks. No, do you know what? You can go A Hopcroft 13, or if you, the YouTube comments are always good as well.
Excellent. My Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergi. Christian Miller asks, when do you do a video where you answer comments? So Christian, I do Fergi time on the dead, so it's an hour before the deadline every week, where we just answer basically every question that comes to the chat.
God, if I'd have gone on it, should I wild card? You just said no, don't be an idiot.
I would have. I said, Adam, what the hell are you doing? Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd have been,
you should have. So you should actually. I've invited you on the stream. You need to come on a couple of times so we can have a chat at that hour. So your mind is off your phone and off Twitter. Look, anyway. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Go on, if you listen on a podcast now, leave us 5 stars and leave a comment telling us what you enjoy and what we can improve. It would be much appreciated. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok are at FFH_HQ. And our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_Green Arrow. Make sure you drop us a follow. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football and fantasy Premier League, all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta-stats, top player team reveals, points prediction tools, everything you could ever need to be the best FPL manager you can be. To join the tens of thousands of other fantasy managers and sign up to the Hub, choose our amazing resources. Just click the top link in the description below. You will not regret it. City Eagle says, great chat. Thanks, guys. Cheered up my Tuesday night. That is all we're here for, City Eagle. Thank you so much. That really does make our day. We'll be back next week, looking ahead to Game Week 7. Stay safe, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.